Hey, Rebel Bankers, this is your host, Chris Noggle, and welcome to the show. I'm here with an extra special guest, John King. Now, you may or may not know John's name. You see, I knew who John was for a long time, but I had the luxury and the honor to seeing John speak when I was in Las Vegas. And the things he spoke about are life-changing. We're going to talk about some of those things today. We're going to talk about how John got started, some of his obstacles he had to overcome to getting to where he's at today. And we're going to talk about some of his principles for what he does. And for any of you that are just looking, I'm going to let John do most of this, but John wrote a book called Tribal Leadership. And tribal leadership has gone on to be one of the top 20 of all time business leadership books. I mean, that is not just a small feat. That is a monumental victory. And we're going to talk about some of those principles that are in that book and how that book has transformed people's lives, literally their lives, their businesses, their futures, their legacy. It's done it all. And that's what John is going to talk a little bit about today. But let's talk about you for a second. Let's talk about your journey to becoming a Rebel Banker. Now, it doesn't matter where you're at in your business, in your real estate journey. It's always going to have ups and downs. And in your journey, money is going to be one of those things that you're going to be forced to learn. It's going to be one of those things that you're either going to learn or it's going to learn you. And the best way to get started in your journey for learning how money works is to, grab a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide. Check out one of our courses, moneyschoolrei.com/masterclass, our 4-week trainings. There's so many ways to do it, but what I want to do today is I want to really talk to John, and I want to get John's opinion on how he's done what he's done. So let's jump right into it. John, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell everybody just a little bit about where you're at today, your business, and kind of some of the things about you.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation, Chris. It's really a pleasure. I'm, having met you a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas, I've probably shared about you 15 or 20 times, so your little ears should be burning. But I was just really highly impressed with your commitment and your reach and your vision and so on like that. And so when you asked me, I was highly flattered. And so I'm very appreciative of being here. Well, what's the deal on me? Well, it seems like the theme for me is adaptability, and that I am changing as it goes. So if I reach back far enough to when I was a young man, when Jesus was a tiny baby, I was interested in the arts. I was a dancer. I was interested in the arts. My sister and I were national champion ballroom dancers. And then I taught for a while and taught a few people to win world championships. And that was living in Albuquerque. But my wife and I wanted to be in show business. So we moved to California and we went into television and movies. And I did a little Broadway and toured around as a stage arts dancer and and did that for a number of years, pretty successfully. And then there came the day when I went over the hill. And so this was the first kind of come to Jesus with myself. My body had always been able to do anything that I wanted it to do. And suddenly that thing that was just simple and had always been there was no longer there for me. And what I had to confront was, am I going to keep on trying to do this and fake it and just sort of chip away at it and fall into the second, third, and fourth, and fifth rank of dancers and kind of be living in hope that somebody's going to see me or remember me? Or am I going to cross-train myself into something else? And I knew I was in deep trouble because I did not have anything particularly to fall back on. But what I did is I went and I started volunteering and assisting and serving, and because I didn't know what to do. But after a while, someone saw me and started training me to lead seminars and programs. And so for a number of years, I was a seminar leader, program leader for a company called Landmark Education, which does transformational programs. And I did that until I was I'm done. And at that point, I had sort of slipped over, and through a fluke, so I found that my life is filled with fluky things that are just beautiful things to do. I ended up on faculty at the University of Southern California. I have no idea how. I got a special hall pass from the president of the university. They had put together a project for a team of real hotshots from Japan. And when they got down to the delivery, they realized they had everybody in finance, they had everybody in money, they had everybody in sales, they had everybody, and they didn't have a business coach. And I had written a book called The Coaching Revolution, and they went, oh, okay, King's our coach. And so all of a sudden, I'm on faculty. Now, this, mind you, I never graduated from college. So I'm on faculty at the University of Southern California, like my dream school, right? And I did that. And out of that, what happens is that the alumni come and they hire the faculty to come in and consult in their companies. And I got pulled in to teach and consult in several real estate, commercial real estate companies. And I caught on and survived. And so I worked in the real estate and finance area for about 13 or 14 years. Wrote another book called Tribal Leadership. Taught at the University of Southern California, and did all of that until 2011. And then I was done. And so now what I do is I am on faculty at some leadership academies around the world, one in Central Asia, one in Southeast Asia, and one in the Middle East that I just came back from, and also in Moscow. And I teach and do that. And what I'm in the process now in terms of the world of adaptability and flexibility is I'm setting up retreats. I call them intensives. And I'm setting them up. The first one will be in Mexico in August near Guadalajara. And I'm going to be, my sites will be Mexico, Toronto, right outside of Toronto, little magical place there.
Yeah, a couple hours north of us.
Absolutely incredible, beautiful thing. And then I have a partner in Russia, and he does them in Crete, so we'll be doing them in Crete. And I have another partner in Australia, so we'll be doing it at Byron Bay in Australia. So as I kind of slip gracefully into my declining years, I'm somehow going to be somewhere where people are going to come to me and actually listen to what I have to say. And what I have to say is always the same thing. It's all about relationship. It's all about the quality of the relationship. Aristotle said there's 3 levels of relationships. He said the first one is something like a relationship of pleasure. He said, nice, we enjoy doing that. You and I like each other. We like to play pool. We play pool. I get bored with pool. We have no more relationship. The second one is the one that most people build their business relationship on, and it's called a relationship of utility. And so that's the classic "what's in it for me" when you meet another person. My insight is that is insufficient to get you to where you want to go. You'll win the goodies, you'll get the toys, but you're not going to have the fulfillment and the satisfaction. Aristotle said the highest form of relationship is a relationship of character. And at that point, it became, that's all I'm interested in. I'm interested in having utilitarian and pleasurable relationships inside of relationships of character. So how do we get at character? Well, the model is fairly simple. Virtue, which is a word that means excellence, virtue forms character, character unfolds destiny.
I love that. Wow.
And that's what we're all interested in. We're interested in creating and unfolding a destiny that made a difference and that actually made it, what Jobs used to call a dent in the universe. So that's what I think everybody really wants to do, really, really, really. And what happens is we sell out for utilitarian relationships rather than insisting that our relationships be relationships of character. And what's a relationship of character? It's about your ethic. It's about your moral point of view. And it's about the practice of virtue in your life. So basically everything that I do is based on that. I have a point of view that leadership is actually quite simple and elegant, although maybe not easy, as opposed to management, which is very complex and tactical, and there's never enough. There's just never enough. So I encourage people to take the leadership track, have your management game together, and then step into the art of leadership. And stepping into the art of leadership, the number one rule is there are five rules. The number one rule, number two, I'll say. First one is your health. Second one is your relationships. So think in terms of qualitative all the way through. The third is your passion. And really getting to the heart of what your passion is. This is where you find your mission in life. This is where you find out, who you are really, and this is where you build your character. Then the fourth one is about your career growth and development, your growth, your development, your education. That's what keeps you young. And then the fifth is contribution and service, where you give back. So that's kind of my model.
That's fantastic. And I know earlier we had discussed one of your life missions is to get everybody to connect. And, yes. It sounds so simple, get everybody to connect, but yes. That is just such an unbelievable thing. Cultural unity, cultural map. I mean, just bringing people together solves pretty much everybody's problem, right? They say you're talking about relationships, and relationships are your network. And if your network equals your net worth, then it just makes sense. Then go out there and start connecting with people that you want to be around, people that are doing the things you want, that fit your ethics, that fit your vision. And that's your life's journey.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
No, that's it. You're so right on. You're so right on in that one. I was talking with a friend of mine that I'm forming. I call myself, and what I do, John King Partners. John King Partners doesn't have anything to do with a business arrangement. It has to do with if you've done or said something in your life, or if I've done and said something in my life that has touched me, moved me, created an influence with me, then you're my partner. And so with that being so, everyone is a potential partner. So I'm always looking for who my partners are and how do we develop a real partnership. Well, one of the things that I've discovered in tribal leadership, we talk about the 5 stages. The first and the fifth stages are not really very relevant. They're each only about 3% of the overall population. But the first one is a stage called undermining. And it's where people are alone, they're alienated, and they're pretty much, you leave them alone. They're probably in prison, you don't meet them. But stage 2 and 3 are 2 really critical stages to understand. Stage 2 is you and me on a bad day. And on a bad day, my wheels are spinning. I can't get any traction. Nobody loves me. I'm not effective at all. In fact, it's called ineffective. The stage is called ineffective. And I don't trust anybody because basically I've been abused. I've been commoditized. And I know that that I'm in a position where I'm about to be betrayed is the feeling. It's kind of a looming feeling. We've all had that feeling.
100%.
And it's 100% a function of not being connected to other people. This is the feeling that you had the first day you went into junior high. This is the first day you went into college or high school, where you were in a bigger world, you didn't know anybody, and you walking around and you going, wow, it's working for everybody else. Why not me? My life sucks. And then there are the people who are on top of it. They've been there a little bit ahead of you. They figured things out. Maybe they're a little bolder. Maybe they're a little more outgoing. And they're in what we call stage 3. These are people who are doing and operating in a useful way. They're putting people together. They're producing results. But they're not playing the game from the standpoint of putting things together and let's build a community here. What they're doing is they're building their own private little baronetcy, and they are the ones who will abuse you. They are the ones who, this is you and me on a good day, where we actually literally exploit the people around us and say, I've got mine, And the meme on this is, I'm great, you're not, and I have the stats to prove it. Well, this has been the nature of the culture of business, and I recognized that a long time ago, is that businesses are built in the stage 3 and stage 2 paradigm. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a stage 4. It turned out it hadn't been distinguished, but there is a stage 4. There's about 20% of the people in the company that are kind of above it all, that understand that everything is based on their relationships, and what they're up to is they're up to whatever is the vision of the company or the common vision of the group of people that they're working with at stage 4. And here's what I discovered. There is a large percentage, 20% of the people are at stage 4, but they're not connected to other stage 4s. And so if we can build a culture of stable and effective partnership at stage 4, what you do is you, in that moment, it takes a while to build it, but in that moment, you lift the productivity of the company or you or your little group by anywhere from 300 to 500%. And when I saw that, I went, wow, simple, John. All you got to do is get people working well together. Well, it turns out that's not so easy.
No, it is not. In theory, it sounds easy, but it is not easy.
Not easy. I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, well, what do you want? And I said, well, here's what I want. I want to be surrounded by bright, attractive people who really enjoy working, like people, and who I can stand. And I think that last little piece is a whole lot of it, is can I stand them? And for me, it's not a matter of anything other than, are they going to do the work? Do they keep their words? Are they responsible? Are they accountable? Then I like them, that sort of thing. So I think it's critical. I think what you said is absolutely perfect. You really need to be seeking out people who are talented, people who will deliver the goods, people who are not like you, who have different talents than you have, that you can bring together and apply to on an ad hoc basis to your projects. And you really actually have to kind of be able to stand each other well. And you have to have one major thing covered. The weakness of this whole idea is that you end up with free riders. You end up with people who don't do any work and then they show up to take the victory lap. So people who are workers, there's a Pareto distribution on people who really do the work. You may have noticed this. When it comes time to get something done, the Pareto distribution says 1/2 of the square root of everybody involved does all the work. So 1/2 of the square root. So if you've got 100 people working on a project, you got 10 people are the square root of that, 5 people are doing all the work.
Hey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in order to get around that, we need to find the people in the Pareto distribution that are doing the work, and then get a tacit agreement amongst them that if somebody is here and they're not going to do the work, then they need to be actually taken out of this, just because they're not doing the work. They're a free rider.
Well, John, I saw this thing, and I think I saw it on social media, and I love it. It kind of goes along with your statement where you mentioned leadership is discovery. It's an art form, not a craft. Well, there's this one thing where it talks about a leader, and it shows 2 depictions of, someone back in ancient Greece. One of them is the leader sitting on, his chariot with the whip and all his workers in front of him pulling him, right? Then there's the other one that says, this is a true leader. It's the leader out front, basically pulling everybody to get to the point. And that is almost just the exact same thing as you just said. I mean, yeah. That is what a leader is. And those are the kind of people want to follow. They don't want somebody that shows up for the victory lap. They want somebody that shows them the path to get to where they want to be in life. And that's the true form of a leader. And that's kind of a lot of what you talk about.
I like that. Seth Godin, who wrote Tribes, the book Tribes is a significant book. And it was published the exact same week that Tribal Leadership was published by accident. But Seth Godin, who is a marketing guy and brilliant, really said, he distinguished two things, something like that. He said there is the broadcast model of leadership. So think of a radio or a television where it's there in front of you, it's telling them what to do, and it has no return, no information no knowledge of what's coming back because it's the broadcast model. Or he said, no, now today, people are networked up in such a way that they're sharing information. And the model is more like the internet. So if you can imagine that the internet potentially is all information available to all people all the time. The other broadcast model is knowledge is power, so I'll just hoard all the knowledge and parse it out to you in the way. What it does is it shows you that that knowledge is power model is actually a myth, and that we should be sharing the information amongst everybody because other people have different talents, other abilities, and they can see past your own blind spot. So therefore, what the leader does is they provide the environment for people to think and flourish. Leadership is different from the leader. And leadership is the state or the ecology or the environment of people to be able to come together. And what the leader's doing is he's keeping it clean. He's keeping the pollution out of the environment. He's not tolerating gossip. He's not tolerating kind of unaccountability. And he's making sure that everybody has what they need so that they're nurtured and they can flourish. What a leader is doing inside of a created environment of leadership is a couple of things. I call it cultural architecture. He or she has invented an environment where leaders arise naturally and then coordinate with one another.
I love it. And you also mentioned something where, everybody's caught up in this, and that's just such a cliche thing. Knowledge is power.
Yes.
And you said it's a myth. Because knowledge could be power if you knew how to apply that knowledge to get results. And that's the thing that people lack nowadays, because the internet and the information world we live in, you can get knowledge everywhere. You can go anywhere. You can Google anything and you can feel like you're an expert in that. But you know what? It's not the knowledge that's the power. It's the application of the knowledge. It's the ability to apply knowledge in a systematic way to get results, but not only just you applying that knowledge, it's the ability for you to apply knowledge, teach people to apply that same knowledge, all for this common cause so that you all succeed. And that's kind of getting everybody connected, but it's just in a whole different way. And I'm just trying to go off of everything I'm hearing because I'm just listening to your words and I'm just applying them into everyday life on ways you can get results and ways you can.
Well, you definitely got it, Chris. As a matter of fact, that kind of a way of looking at it and everything is something that I would say, well, I'd certify you as a tribal leader because you get the principle. The point is having the contextual picture, because indeed that is what you're doing. You are creating environments for people to flourish within, and it has nothing to do with directing and running either, which then ends up doing something very interesting. It identifies what management actually is. So management is granted by authority. So if someone has the authority and they give it to me and they say, John, you're the manager, and I walk in and say, Chris, nice to meet you. Nice to meet the crew. Happy to meet you. I'm your new manager. Then there's no voting. You get it. And I'm there to manage you. And I'm there to manage you for efficiency. That's what management is about efficiencies. On the other hand, if I walked in and I said, hi, I'm your new leader, you'd think I was crazy because leadership is granted by permission. And if I don't have your permission, I cannot lead you. And on the other hand, I have to have your permission because I'm probably going to lead you to some places that are uncomfortable for you, because leadership is not about efficiency. It's about effectiveness. We want to have a breakthrough in our ability to actually accomplish and produce like that. And in order to do that, if I don't have the relationship with you and the permission of you to and by the way, grant you the permission. So it's a peer relationship. It's a true partnership. And if I don't have that kind of peer partnership relationship with you, we are going to fail as a leadership group. The management group is far, far easier for people to do. We know how to do that. We've lived in that. We've grown up in that. I don't care if you have an MBA or not. You've got an MBA. You know how to manage. Leading is what we need to learn how to do, and leading is learning how to be a co-equal partner with the people you're working with. And you know what? We don't do that. We don't do that well. And we lie to ourselves about it that we know how to do that. Then we say, hey, I'm a great team player. But the truth is, until we can partner effectively in a co-equal basis with people, using their skills and using our skills and blending them together and thinking it through and so on like that, we will never get to a team. And that's ultimately where we want to get. Stage 5 is all about team.
It's incredible. And, you know, so much of this is relevant when it comes to the topic that we always talk about with money. You know,
Yes.
So many people, and we teach this, and I've seen this, and, you know, I used to do this. And I learned the hard way. I learned by getting told no so many times that I finally got a yes. And when I got a yes, I learned, how did I get that yes? I got that yes because I failed so many times that I finally succeeded. And in money, you know, one of the things, it's right in line with what you're saying, is you have to get really good at solving other people's problems.
Yes.
And everybody has a common problem. And that common problem for just about everybody is everybody wants to make more money. So
Yes.
if you can go out there and you can solve someone's problem, and I always tell people, you know, all you need to do to get money for your deals or for your business is solve someone else's problem. So if you can learn how money works, then you can solve other people's problems. And then what your job is to do is go then teach them how to solve their own problem. And that's really the name of the game for getting money. And money is so many people get caught up in, oh, there's no money and I don't have any money. It doesn't matter whether you have money. Resources and money are all around you, and you just need to attract that money. And the only way to attract it is not to ask for it. When you ask for money, you put yourself in a position of weakness. But when you go out there and you talk about an opportunity that solves someone else's problem, money flows to you. It flows to you at such a rapid pace that it's actually scary, because you get to a point where you don't need the money, and then you don't want to repel the money, but then you have to redirect that money. And that's what's happened. That's why we've done everything we are with what we do with the Money School and with this podcast. Is just teaching people, solve people's problems. Get everybody to connect is basically the first step to solving people's problems. Because if you can connect people, then everybody can then go out there and fulfill their higher power, which is solving people's problems in one way or the other. It doesn't have to be money. It can be anything.
Yeah, you know, you couldn't be more right on. That's so awesome the way you're saying that. I have a partnership. So again, think John King Partners, not a business thing. It's something that is by way of, merit, I'm going to say, with a guy who's a Canadian. And he has devised an algorithm that's very interesting. It's a predictive analytic. And what he does is he takes people who have widely differing views and belief structures. In the U.S., you would say somebody who is a progressive versus somebody who is an alt-right, for example, or different religious looks, or different, just differing points of view and belief structures. And he has them engage the algorithm. And the interesting that we find out is no matter how far they are in terms of outliers and on the spectrum and everything, they already are aligned on about 80% of life. And they don't know it. So you'll hear people say, well, I could never work with and then fill in the blank. And the truth is you absolutely can work with fill in the blank. And we can show you by way of engaging in this algorithm. So a good manager, for example, can take a look at where everybody is in his group or her group, and they can see exactly where they state, and they see exactly where everybody's aligned. So in terms of dealing with the alignment, they've got tasks they can give them where they could begin to build skills at working well together. And the interesting thing is, black people, white people, Catholics and Jews, Republicans and Democrats all come together, and you ask them how come they work so well together, and they say, well, he's kind of different or she's kind of different. What they do is they make exceptions for each other in order to work well together. I don't care how we get there. We want people who will make that kind of an exception with each other so they can work well together. So when The guy's name is Wayne. When Wayne showed me this algorithm, I went, wow, I've been looking for this tool for 25 years. You know,
Searching, so, almost like searching for the Holy Grail, right? And there it was.
I went, whoa, man.
Your partner from up north.
Yeah, who knew?
Oh, that's incredible. I feel like I literally could sit here for hours just talking about this stuff. And, you know, when I heard you speak, it's just so much of that stuff resonated, and everything you're saying it's so simple. Yes. It's around us. We sort of already know the answer. We just don't, we sometimes just need somebody to tell us that. We almost need someone to channel that to us and say, this is what you should be doing. This is all it is. It's these simple principles. Just follow the principles and do that. And that's exactly what your book, Tribal Leadership, does. And that's probably why it's one of the top 20 of all time. And
I think that people find value in it, but I will say that that's exactly what happens typically, Chris, is that people come up and they say, well, I knew that, I just didn't have the words for it. You know?
I'm one of them, John.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. You're saying this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I know this stuff, but
I know this stuff.
I can't. Yeah, but I just don't know how to always apply it. Sometimes you just need someone to slap you in the head and say, oh, it's right in front of your face. Just do what you know to do.
Well, it's very, very, very interesting because the truth about it is, my intention was that to get that all of this is inside of you, each and every person. And you do need to kind of come to yourself and look into yourself and something like that. But this is stuff that you know, and not only that, but this is stuff that you can teach. One of the things that I say, and I'll say it to you through you, what I said when I was speaking that day, how I opened, which is, this is going to sound kind of surprising perhaps, but I'm not here for you. I'm here on behalf of the dreams and the aspirations of your parents and your grandparents, and on behalf of the legacy that you're leading to your children and your grandchildren. And you're the one I get to talk to. So I want to wake you up so that what we're doing is you are doing a really rich reflection of what your parents and grandparents gave to you, and you're passing it on to your children and grandchildren. That's where you will be immortal. At some point, the bag of skin that you walk around in is going to die. But the values, the virtues, the character, the morals, the ethics that you're teaching your children and grandchildren, that's what's going to live on. And again, it's virtue forms character, character unfolds destiny.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's freaking awesome. I don't even know how to comment on that. I really don't. It's just too powerful to even say anything about it. It makes all the sense in the world. All the sense in the world.
I'm blessed to have met you. That's for openers.
Well, I think it's my honor. It truly is.
You know, that's the way it should be. It should be that kind of comment, like, oh wow. This, in fact, if you look at it, is like, and I saw it right away. I saw what you were up to, and I saw the contribution that you were providing at this conference. It's a little kind of like, you know, birthing something, you know, and working in partnership with a couple of other people. And then you came to me, and I would say within 5 or 6 seconds, I got a feeling for who you are in terms of your character. And I went, you know, I want that in my life. I want that kind of relationship in my life. I'm interested in the relationships of character. Who knows? Maybe somewhere along the line we can figure out how to do something of utility together. But more important thing is, let's build this relationship of character and merit.
That's where it all starts.
Yep, it does for me.
The rest of it just takes care of itself, to be honest with you. And in my life, in the simple things, you know, that I'm trying to do, that's what's taking care of itself. The things that we want to always achieve later that seem like they're so complicated, they just automatically happen if you just take care of what you should be taking care of, which is what you were talking about with the relationship.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Absolutely.
Well, John, this has been fantastic, and we're getting to the end of it. But if anyone wanted to reach out to you, or if they wanted to find you, what are the best ways for someone that's watching this podcast to find you, or to, you know, obviously they can find your book.
Given that I'm a troglodyte, probably the best thing is I have an email, and the email is John King Partners, all one word, johnkingpartners@gmail.com. So super easy. And so I will respond to that. I'm also on Facebook, so this is what I look like. And if you find a little face that looks like this with white hair, and it's wearing a blue blazer and has a yellow tie, that's me. There's a number of John Kings.
Yes, there is.
Let me invite you to come and join me on Facebook. I am awesome on Facebook. And what I do is I post in the area of leadership, culture. I particularly am looking at what is wonderful news to present that young people are doing, or I look in the arts, or I happen to look in the fashion industry. My daughter was a high fashion model, so I like fashion. So beautiful people doing beautiful things in life and providing some sort of gift to the people around them, particularly their children and grandchildren. So I'm trying to get that kind of thing going. So please join me on Facebook, and please, and email me.
Wow. All right. So all of you heard that. So make sure you find John King, and just make sure you look for the guy in the blue blazer and the yellow tie. Because when I did it, I also saw there's a whole bunch of John Kings. So follow him on Facebook, and it'll be truly a transformational journey for you. And I know all of you that are watching this and watch this, make sure you spread the word on this one, because this is truly inspirational, motivational, and life-changing stuff. And you all should grab a copy of the book. The Tribal Leadership, you have to grab it. It's not a matter of whether you should or should not. This is a must read. A must read. And it's one of the top 20. I mean, you don't even need for me to tell you should read this. It's a top 20. Just read the book. And after you get done reading that book, on your journey to becoming a rebel banker and learning how money really works, grab a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide, and apply the principles of the tribal leadership to everything we talk about when it comes to money, and watch how fast your life changes. So with that being said, thank you all so much. And John, thank you so very much for your time. I very much appreciate it. And this is the beginning of what I think is going to be an unbelievable relationship, and I'm very honored. So thank you.
I hope so. I hope to see you again soon, Chris, and the best of everything. Blessings to you and your family.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching another episode of The Money School, and we will see you on the next episode.